He was the most powerful man on earth. He commanded the greatest army in human history. He ruled an empire of 70 million people. Every law, every war, every life passed through his hands. And every single night, alone in his tent on the frozen frontier of the Danube River, he wrote in a private journal that he never intended anyone to read. Not about power, not about conquest, about how hard it was just to get out of bed in the morning. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, Stoic philosopher, and one of the most emotionally honest human beings who ever lived. This is his story, and it is also yours. Most people who discover Marcus Aurelius discover the quotes first. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Powerful words, timeless words, words that have outlasted the entire Roman Empire by nearly 2,000 years. But here is what most people miss entirely. Marcus Aurelius did not write those words from a place of mastery. He wrote them from a place of struggle. The Meditations, his private journal, was never a declaration of wisdom achieved. It was a daily battle to hold himself together. A man in the most demanding position on earth, reminding himself every single morning how a good person should think and act, because he was terrified of forgetting. That is not the writing of a man who had it figured out. That is the writing of a man who refused to stop trying. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD into Roman nobility. Intelligent, sensitive, and deeply philosophical from childhood. By the time he was a teenager, he had fallen in love with Stoic philosophy, a system of thought built around one central idea. You cannot control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond. He spent decades studying this, preparing himself, refining his character before he ever wore the crown. And then reality arrived. He became Emperor of Rome in 161 AD, and almost immediately the world tried to break him. A devastating plague swept through the empire, killing up to 10 million people. Wars erupted on multiple borders simultaneously. Rebellions flared inside the empire itself. Floods destroyed harvests. Earthquakes leveled cities. And through all of it, Marcus Aurelius kept showing up. Not because he was untouched by it. He was deeply touched by all of it. He lost children, multiple children. He watched people he loved die from the plague. He suffered from chronic physical illness his entire reign, pain that never fully left him. He felt every single blow, but he had built something inside himself that the blows could not reach. Here is where the philosophy becomes personal, and where ancient strength lives. Marcus Aurelius understood something about emotional strength that modern culture is only beginning to rediscover. Strength is not the absence of pain. Strength is what you build in the presence of it. He wrote in his meditations that he woke each morning and reminded himself that the day would be difficult, that he would encounter frustrating people, painful circumstances, and moments that tested every principle he held. He did not pretend otherwise. He prepared. This is a radical idea even today. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They numb it, distract from it, or collapse beneath it. Marcus Aurelius did something completely different. He named it. He sat with it. He examined it honestly. And then he chose how to respond. Modern psychology now calls this cognitive reframing, the ability to change, not what happens to you, but how you interpret what happens to you. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective psychological treatments in the world today, traces its roots directly back to Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius was practicing CBT nearly 2,000 years before it had a name. He wrote, "It is not the things that happen to us that cause our suffering. It is the stories we tell ourselves about those things." Read that again. The pain is real. The loss is real. The difficulty is absolutely real. But the suffering, the prolonged, identity-destroying, life-collapsing suffering, That comes from the story we attach to what happened. Marcus knew this because he had lived it. He had watched emperors before him, destroyed not by their enemies, but by their own unexamined minds. Rage, paranoia, narcissism, grief that never moved. He chose a different path. What made Marcus Aurelius truly extraordinary was not his intelligence. Rome had brilliant men. It was not his power. Rome had powerful men. It was the combination of immense strength and genuine humility that history had almost never seen in one person at the same time. He shared power with a co-emperor when he did not have to. He listened to advisors who disagreed with him. He forgave enemies who had moved against him. When challenged for his throne, he made his rival a partner instead of an execution. These were not signs of weakness. These were signs of a man so internally secure that he did not need to crush others to feel tall. That is emotional strength in its most complete form. And it came directly from his daily practice, every morning writing in that journal, every morning recommitting to the principles he believed in, every morning choosing, deliberately and consciously, who he was going to be that day, not who he felt like being, who he had decided to be. The Meditations was discovered after his death in 180 AD. He never published it, never shared it, never intended it as a legacy. It was a private conversation between a man and his own higher self, a daily reminder, a quiet act of self-accountability practiced in the dark while the world slept. And it became one of the most read books in human history, because people recognized something in those pages that they felt in themselves. The struggle to be better than your worst impulse. The gap between who you are and who you know you could be. The daily choice to close that gap, not perfectly, not permanently, but faithfully. Marcus Aurelius was broken before he was great. He was uncertain before he was wise. He was afraid before he was strong. And he became all of those things, not by eliminating the struggle, but by refusing to abandon it. That is ancient strength, not the absence of darkness. The decision to keep moving through it. If this video moved something in you, subscribe to Ancient Strength. Share it with someone who is in the middle of their own struggle right now. And I will see you in the next one.